Airports have a way of showing you who people really are. Some couples cling to each other like it's the last goodbye. Others fight over baggage fees. I learned the truth in a single sentence, spoken between the smell of coffee and the drone of flight announcements. "Stay here," Rosie whispered, her hand stiff on the handle of her suitcase. "Please don't walk with me. You'll embarrass me in front of them." Her voice was low but sharp, like a blade hidden in velvet. For a moment I thought I misheard. Then I saw the reason. Two women, her friends, were gliding toward us in tailored coats and heels far too tall for a 10-hour flight. Their eyes flicked to me, then away again, like I was an untidy detail in the corner of a photograph. Rosie's shoulders tensed. The air between us changed. I had carried her bags across the parking lot, the straps biting into my palms. I had skipped work to get her here on time. Yet in that instant, I was nothing but a liability she needed to manage. I let go of her cart. The wheels rattled on the tile as it rolled back to her. "You're right," I said, quiet, almost conversational. "Wouldn't want to ruin the picture." She blinked, startled. She had expected protest, maybe even drama she could retell later with her audience leaning in. Instead, she got silence. I stepped aside, giving her a clear path to her friends. The three of them merged together in a whirl of perfume, suitcases, and laughter rehearsed for Instagram stories. But I didn't watch them go. My eyes were on the floor, on the scuffed tiles under my sneakers. They grounded me in a way her world never had. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not anger. Not grief. Something cleaner. Like a knot pulled tight for too long finally coming loose. By the time the terminal doors slid shut behind me, I already knew, when she came back from this trip, she would not be coming home to me. Rosie wasn't always like this. Or maybe she was, and I just wanted the softer version of her to be real. When we met, she worked in marketing. 9 to 5, steady paycheck, evenings free for movies and wine on the couch. She'd talk about campaigns she built and clients she charmed, and I admired her ambition. She admired that I built things with my hands, furniture, small design projects, pieces that would last longer than both of us. We were different, but it felt like balance. The shift came gradual, disguised as growth. She started posting more, taking photos before dinners, curating outfits for brunches. I thought it was harmless. Everyone's online now, I told myself. Then came the day she quit her job. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, eyes bright, voice trembling with conviction. "This is my chance," she said. "If I don't try now, I never will. I could really make it." I wanted to believe her. So I did. I made her a deal. I'd cover the house and bills for 6 months. She'd invest her savings in her new career. A trial run, a partnership. At first, it was almost fun. She was giddy, alive, planning photoshoots and hashtags, asking me to hold the camera while she posed on our balcony. But then the receipts piled up, designer clothes labeled as business expenses, endless shipments of cosmetics and lighting gear. My evenings turned into backdrop setups. My weekends became errand runs. The woman I'd fallen for, the one who used to curl up beside me and laugh at bad sitcoms, slowly disappeared. In her place was a brand. A character designed for strangers scrolling on a phone. And she began to look at me differently. Less like a partner, more like an extra on her set. She would wrinkle her nose at my work clothes, call them not aspirational. She'd brush off my friends as boring, my hobbies as small. I told myself it was temporary. That once she got traction, the balance would return. But somewhere between her first sponsored post and that airport whisper, I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. Rosie wasn't building a business. She was building a stage. And I wasn't meant to stand on it with her. The night before Rosie's flight to Europe, the house felt like a showroom. Clothes hung in neat rows across the living room, shoes lined the hallway like soldiers waiting inspection. Ring lights hummed faintly, glowing circles reflected in the windows. I moved through it all like a stranger in my own home, stepping around her carefully arranged piles of content. She barely looked at me. Her focus was on a mirror propped against the wall, testing shades of lipstick under the artificial glow. "You'll drive me tomorrow, right?" she asked, not really asking. "Of course," I said. It wasn't anger I felt. Not yet. More like a quiet ache, the realization that I had become background noise in her life. I was the driver, the bag carrier, the steady income paying for the stays she built. At the airport, I hauled 3 oversized suitcases until my shoulders burned. She walked ahead, phone in hand, documenting her adventure. Then came the whisper, "Don't walk with me, you'll embarrass me," and the last thread snapped. The moment I turned away, something shifted inside me. Not grief. Not rage. Something clean, almost liberating. A door closing with a final click. On the drive home, the ache transformed into clarity. I replayed our years together, but this time without the filter of hope. Every dismissive remark, every time she spoke to me like staff instead of a partner, every night she chose a screen over me, it all lined up into one undeniable truth: Rosie didn't love me. She loved the idea of herself that I helped fund. By the time I pulled into the driveway, a decision had taken root. She was leaving for 3 weeks. That was my window, not for revenge, but for reclamation. This wasn't about punishing her. It was about taking back what I had slowly given away: my space, my time, my dignity. I stood in the silence of the house, surrounded by her clothes, her equipment, her endless props. It didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like storage. That's when the thought struck me, sharp and certain: when she returned, she would find not a partner waiting, but a life that no longer belonged to her. The transformation had begun. The first thing to go was the car. Rosie adored that SUV, gleaming black with leather seats, the kind that turned heads when she pulled up to brunch. She used to run her hands along the dashboard like it was a pet. But the title was in my name, not hers. The morning after the airport, I drove it to the dealership and walked out with a check. The manager looked surprised, maybe even sympathetic. I didn't explain. Some endings don't need words. Back home, the silence was heavy. Her clothes still filled the closet, dresses with tags still hanging. The bathroom was a museum of beauty products, bottles lined like soldiers. The spare room, our spare room, was swallowed by ring lights, fabric backdrops, stacks of plastic bags from overnight shopping hauls. Everywhere I turned, her presence was louder than her absence. I stood in the center of the mess, phone in hand, thumb hovering over a contact list of removal services. My chest was tight, not with doubt but with something that felt close to grief. Clearing her out meant admitting the truth, that the woman I had once loved wasn't coming back. I dialed anyway. By the next afternoon, trucks rolled into the driveway. Men in gloves moved briskly, lifting her world out piece by piece. Dresses, boxes, lights, all carted away with the efficiency of an eraser across a page. I signed the invoice and told them to double their pace. That night the house echoed. Empty spaces where her things had been looked almost raw. I dragged in the oak coffee table I'd built years ago, the one she said was too heavy, too rustic. I set it down in the living room. Solid. Real. Mine. Still, the air buzzed with tension. She didn't know yet. Across the ocean, she was smiling for cameras, posting snapshots of Parisian cafes, the world believing she was living a dream. Meanwhile, her dream was being stripped down to bare walls and silence. And in that silence I wrestled with myself. Part of me longed for her to call, to apologize, to see me again, not as an accessory, but as the man who once built her shelves, fixed her car, made her laugh. But another part knew, even if she called, I wouldn't answer. Because this wasn't destruction. This was survival. She landed on a gray afternoon, rain streaking the airport windows. Somewhere across the ocean, her feed still showed sunlit piazzas and champagne glasses, but reality was waiting in arrivals with damp air and no ride. I wasn't there. For over an hour she waited, her texts buzzing, my phone unanswered in the pocket of my jacket. Eventually, she flagged a cab, driver straining as he wrestled her 3 massive suitcases into the trunk. The trip across town cost more than a plane ticket. I imagine she didn't film that part. When she reached the house, the first thing she noticed was the new lock. Her key turned and turned useless. She tried again, rattling the door, rain dripping from her hair. Then came the dawning recognition, the windows bare, no SUV in the driveway, silence where her stage once stood. She called me 37 times in a row. Each ring echoed in my pocket as I stood in a motel 2 states away, helmet and saddlebags waiting by the door. My motorcycle tour began at sunrise. By the time her parents arrived, summoned in panic, the suitcases sat like monuments on the porch. Neighbors watched from behind curtains. Voices rose, her father angry, her mother pleading, Rosie caught somewhere between fury and disbelief. She had always lived for an audience, but this wasn't the performance she wanted. That night, her followers were fed a different story. Tearful videos about betrayal, captions dripping with victimhood. But the truth slipped through the cracks. Friends whispered about what she'd said at the airport. Screenshots circled. Her narrative unraveled thread by thread. And then the final blow, her website. Where once her portfolio gleamed, there now sat a single, unflinching image, the receipt from the junk removal service. The total circled in red. Beneath it, one sentence, brand under reconstruction. Please check back soon. It spread faster than she ever could have planned. Screenshots went viral, shared and reshared, her name not attached to a luxury product but to a receipt for erasure. Somewhere, in that storm of panic and humiliation, Rosie must have realized the truth. She had chosen image over substance, and now the image itself was gone. And I, quiet, unseen, was already on the road, the rain behind me, the open desert ahead. 4 months later, the house feels alive again. Not loud, not crowded, alive in the way a space can when it finally belongs to you. The echo is gone, replaced by the low hum of a record player, the smell of sawdust from the workshop, the weight of furniture I've built with my own hands. Each piece carries fingerprints, imperfections, proof of something real. People still ask about Rosie. Stories linger in friend groups, half-whispered accounts of her collapse. They say she moved back in with her parents. They say her friends drifted away. They say her feed is nothing but recycled photos, polished relics from a life that doesn't exist anymore. I don't check. I don't need to. Sometimes I catch myself replaying that moment in the airport. Her eyes flicking to her friends, her voice dropping to a hiss, "Don't walk with me. You'll embarrass me." It doesn't sting the way it once did. Now it feels like the truest thing she ever said. She wasn't afraid of me embarrassing her. She was afraid of me existing in her frame at all, too solid, too unfiltered, too real. I used to think love was compromise, bending so the other person could shine. But real love isn't about shrinking to fit into someone else's picture. It's about being seen, even in your most ordinary clothes, and still being enough. The irony is that Rosie wanted a brand, something curated, untouchable. But a brand is fragile. It collapses without scaffolding. I was the scaffolding. And when I stepped away, her perfect facade crumbled into dust. One evening, I sat on my porch as the sun slipped low, burning the horizon gold. My bike leaned against the railing, saddlebags packed for another trip. This time Asia, maybe, or the mountains further north. Places where no one asks for Wi-Fi, where the only proof you were there is the dirt on your boots. I thought of Rosie then, not with anger, not even with pity. Just with the quiet understanding that some people chase images, while others build foundations. And in the end, images fade. Foundations endure. I stood, stretched, and walked back inside. The door closed behind me with a weight that felt final. The kind of final that isn't loss, but freedom.